with another episode of Ask Alexis and Brooke, where no topic is off limits and no piece of unsolicited advice goes unspoken. This is my co-host Brooke, my bestie B, author and iconic whistleblower. You've got to get her book. The audio is available for those of you who like just can't be bothered or don't have the time to read a physical book. Although I do recommend getting the book, and I have it sitting here. Well, I don't want to mess up my view, but it's pink. It's right behind her shoulder. So it's like also a showpiece, if you will. I took it in the airport and people were like asking me like, what are you reading? Like, it's such a cute book. I was like, I know it's cute, but also powerful and informative. So check it out. It'll be linked.
Thank you. What a lovely introduction. I need to go plant some of my books in airport bookstores. They'll try and scan it, but it probably won't come up. Anyway, this is lovely Alexis Germany Fox, mother of two sets of twins and iconic dating coach, and just some of the best dating advice and just advice in general that I have ever gotten. I actually solicited some earlier and was once again blown away by how good at giving advice you are.
I do live to give advice, you know. Okay. So
I love that.
We have a few submissions this week. So we'll do 2 submissions, and then I have a surprise for our advice no one asked for, which was something special. So let's just like get into the tea.
All right, can't wait.
You're gonna get into the tea first, I believe.
Oh, am I? It says Alexis reads. Do you want me to do yours first though, or the one that says Brooke reads?
Oh no, you're right. You're wrong. I'm right. I mean, you're right. I'm wrong. Okay, Alexis reads. I wrote the script and I still messed up. My boyfriend and I have been together for about 2 years. I'm 31, he's 33, and we're long distance, so we typically see each other every other weekend since it's only a 2.5 hour drive. Okay, that's like not too bad of a long distance. It was his weekend to make the drive to visit me, but at the last minute, he told me he wanted to stay home and have a guy's weekend with his friends. Typical. I asked if I could come down and join him after work on Friday, but he told me he'd rather I didn't, so he could focus on hanging out with the guys. Here's where it gets tricky. I'm totally fine with him having a guy's weekend in theory, but number 1, he decided to do this at the last minute after we already had plans. Okay, that's fair. And 2, I know that his friends usually invite girls that they meet out at the bars back home with them when the night is over. And my boyfriend's place is the designated after hours spot, so it's not like he's gonna skip that part of the night and go home. I'm hurt because I'm not invited to a guy's weekend, but these random girls are welcome. I've tried to talk to him about it when this has happened in the past and even this time, but he just blows me off and says I'm overthinking it. So I'm asking you guys, am I wrong to feel this way? What's the compromise here? Ooh, I feel like you're gonna truly live on this one.
It's a very interesting scenario, and I have been in it before, sort of, but not to the extent that he didn't want me to come and party with them. So I think she has a right to be mad about canceling plans last minute. I hate that. That is like the worst crime you can commit. Well, when you're a guy, like if it's like friends or whatever, like I get over it. But like if you're a guy, especially if it involves traveling and like I'm planning my weekend, I'm denying other people on that weekend because I know that we have plans, and then last minute now you cancel the plans. Like that's not okay. Like, but that's only half the issue, right?
Right.
The other half is the fact that she is like, okay, well, this is our weekend to see each other. She wants to make the drive and make it work. And then he says no. So the reason it just has to be that his boys don't want the girlfriend around. And like, I suppose that is okay to a certain extent. And if it hadn't been that he canceled on her to do this, then I don't think it would be as bad if he was like, if it was already the plan the whole time, like I'm having a guy's weekend this weekend, like, you know, it is what it is. That's fine. Like, I don't think that like just because he goes out on a guy's weekend and goes and wants to party with the guys and not have any of their girlfriends around, like that's not a problem to me. Like, even if they do have other girls come back to the house, like whatever, like it is what it is. A guy who's going to cheat is going to cheat. A guy who's going to do something that he shouldn't be doing, he's going to do it regardless of whether or not you try and like parent him and try and make a whole thing.
Yes, absolutely.
But the fact is he is not being conscious of her feelings. And like that's always what it comes down to is like, how are you treating how I feel about the situation? And if you're not putting me at ease, then that's a problem because you don't care how I feel. So I think that's more the issue that I see is him just like not giving SHIT about how she feels. And that's kind of like permeating through the scenario.
Yeah.
So I don't know. It's hard to like say you take one side or the other because it's like guys do deserve to like just have a boys' weekend, like whatever. Like it's not that big of a deal. But if you're gonna make her uncomfortable and you're gonna cancel on her, then like, well, now it is a big deal.
Well, I am going to take a side. Okay. So I am going to take a side. I'm going to take her side. Hey, girl. But here's why. So number one, and you did tap on this. It's about respect. So you didn't respect the plan that you guys pretty much always have. I'm assuming based on the letter, pretty much every weekend you already kind of know it's your weekend, it's my weekend. The biggest thing that may change is like, oh, let's just do another weekend at your place this weekend or for whatever reason, right? If you're in a long distance relationship, protecting the time that you do have together is very important. And you're a couple years in at this point. So number one, you didn't respect like how she would feel about changing the plan last minute for such an arbitrary weekend. Now, there's not a lot included here, but since it seems like, oh, they always invite the people back, they always do this, that, and the third. I'm not thinking these are like friends coming from out of town. It's just, why did the guys need a whole weekend? Your local guys don't need a whole weekend. You are in your 30s. You are in a 2 year long relationship. Like, that's a little bit bizarre. Going on a trip, sure, a guy's trip, like once a quarter or something like that. Sure, like that's perfectly fine. But it just seems a little odd. And then furthermore, for her to say, okay, you know what? I'll sacrifice. I'll go ahead and make the drive because clearly she must really want to see him. And then he's like, no, I'd rather you didn't. That's utterly bizarre, especially if she's like, he's had guys' weekends in the past. So it's not like she said, I never let him just have time with the guys. Maybe she wouldn't even have wanted to go out. Maybe she would have just hung out at the house unwound from her drive. I don't know. I'm reading more into it, but I feel like the way that she tries to take it as almost like she believes what he's saying about her overthinking it and being insecure. Like, no, he's not respecting your time. He's not respecting your feelings. Why do they need to invite the girls back to his house either? I'm sorry, but if we're in a relationship where I spend half the month of weekends at least at your place, that's also part of my domain. And a bunch of random bar girls aren't coming to my domain often. Like, it's not, or ever. It's not happening. And they're in a 2 year, at least long relationship in their 30s. So I have to assume that it's going into a serious direction. Now, I could be wrong. I will say, yes, people deserve to have weekends or time with their friends. If you're in a committed, serious relationship, an adult relationship, you have to be respectful of your partner. And that really should trump, not to use the name Trump, that really should. I'm sorry. That really should be, a big factor because I think that these little decisions now on like how they prioritize you, feelings, things like that will carry over. It doesn't just change because you get engaged. It doesn't just change because you get married. I would say proceed with some serious caution. Once he has his weekend and you're back to regular business, and you're not mad, as we always like to say, and you're ready to be soft girl, have the conversation about how you feel disrespected when he last minute changes plans when travel is involved, how you feel about random girls, because it's not about parenting him, it's just about respect. Don't put yourself in situations because something could happen. And the more you put yourself in the situation, the more likely you're opening that up for yourself. Just like, don't do it. And then you don't have to worry about any of the drama. So that's what I would say. You need to have a serious talk about it. And if he's not willing to make some compromise with like the necessity or the frequency of guys' weekends that you are not privy to in any way, then you have to think if that's something you would want to carry over into a longer term relationship or marriage. Period.
Agreed. I think I would. I mean, I don't know the rest of the history, right? And like, I don't know if this is the first time he's done this, but like, I feel like a one-time pass as like an okay place to be, being like,
Sure.
oh, and then when the time comes, be like, it really made me so sad that you did that, and just making sure you're talking about how like it made you feel,
Yes.
and if he does the one where he's trying to convince you not to feel like that, then like that's another conversation to be had. But as long as he's being like, yeah, I recognize that was kind of messed up that I canceled on you, because any friend should be able to say like, yes, I canceled on you and that was messed up. So if he can't even say that, then like, I think y'all have greater issues. But yeah, proceed with caution. I think we have a consensus.
There we go. Proceed with caution, stand on business.
Yeah. Okay. That's a good one.
Okay, what we got next? What we got
Okay. Should we go to the next one? Okay.
Yeah.
Dear Alexis and Brooke, I've been putting off dating because I feel like I need to lose weight first. I keep telling myself once I hit my goal, I'll feel confident enough to put myself out there. But honestly, I'm starting to wonder if I'm just using my weight as an excuse to avoid dating altogether. Part of me feels like I'll get judged or rejected for how I look, and I don't want to deal with the possibility of being hurt because of it. I want to find love, but I'm stuck in this cycle of waiting for the right time, and I'm not sure if it'll ever come. How do I stop holding myself back and get out there, even if I don't feel like I'm my best self yet?
Oh,
Oh, that's such
you
an
have a lot
interesting
of things.
one.
I know. This is like
Yeah.
really one to dive into. I will say I can speak from experience of being like all types of different sizes, like heavier and smaller and dating that like I never had an issue getting dates or boyfriends or anything because I was still always confident. So the real thing, the problem isn't your weight. It's your confidence with how you feel overall. And so you need to work on feeling more confident. And so I wouldn't say that you're waiting to lose weight to date. It's that you need to work on your confidence and your self love first. Because if you aren't confident and you don't have self love, you're going to get taken advantage of. You're going to attract the wrong type of men. And so I see a lot of rhetoric online where it's like, oh, men go after like chubby girls because they can take advantage of them. And it's like, you can't take advantage of them because they're chubby. It's you find the chubby ones who aren't confident, who don't have inner self-esteem. And you can have self-esteem and confidence whether you're on my 600-pound life or whether you're walking the Victoria's Secret runway, and vice versa. Like the same things are true. You can have no confidence and be a Victoria's Secret angel or whatever. First things first is get your confidence together. If you start to feel more confident, even if you haven't lost weight, because guess what? You may never lose it. Like not trying to be a naysayer, like try and be healthy and be who you want to be. But you have to like figure out what is going to make you feel good about you. So that's what I would say. Like start there. What do you think, Brooke?
I think your answer made me kind of think of the whole question differently. And I totally appreciate that because at first I guess I was thinking the same thing as like, no, you don't need to wait to date, like just because you're not at the ideal weight. But then and then as you were talking, I was like, yeah, and it is more about what kind of love you're able to give to someone at that weight. And that really comes down to, do you love yourself? And are you able to give that and reciprocate love when it's given to you? Because I speak from experience of like talking to lots of guys, like guys don't care about your weight that much. Like they do not care that much. You don't have to be like some perfect like model or whatever. And furthermore, I feel like a lot of the guys who think that they can get that type of girl or whatever, it's like they usually don't want to wife her up because
Nope.
she's like the model is too expensive for them. Like they can't afford her. Like they're really more likely to settle down with someone who like doesn't have like some perfect physique or whatever, just because that person is right for them, you know? So it reminds me of this NPR, I think it was a This Is Life episode, and she was talking about how she used to be heavier and then she lost weight and now she is like doing some sort of crazy regimen to like keep the weight off, but like she's worried that the partner that she found after she lost the weight, that partner wouldn't like her at the larger weight. And so it like it creates this struggle for her, like, well, would you like me for me or do you like me for my body? And I think that's a really interesting thing to think about because it's like, well, you have to find someone that would love you at any weight because it comes down to a different thing if you're like being unhealthy and you're like, if it's just like, if you're just like getting worse and worse and it comes down to like, well, are you even going to be able to be with me? Like, I think of like My 600-Pound Life, right? Is like, cause we love that show too. When it's like, they're going to die. Like, obviously that there's an extent to it where it's like,
Sure.
no, someone shouldn't just have to sit around and let you do that to yourself. But at the same time, like they should want to get to know you for you. But like you said, it's about having the confidence to reciprocate that love and to receive that love. And that's the issue. I don't think it has much to do with the weight at all.
Yeah.
So yeah, exactly what you said, but in a different way.
Exactly. No, and I love that. I think that was so well put. And it's like there's always going to be something about yourself that we all have our own insecurities, and it's just about knowing that like that doesn't make you an unlovable, undateable person. And it's so funny because my husband and I will have these types of conversations all the time, and he'll always just say like ladies are always worried about the wrong thing. Normal men who aren't like complete shirts aren't like writing down
Right.
those in their head that they're expecting you to be, because you're a full person. We aren't just bodies. Our bodies are like the least thing about us, really. It's all the internal stuff that really says how you can be with a person, how you can love and be loved.
I 100% agree. It reminds me of something, my yoga teacher said, and she said, this is just my body. Like, this is just that's it. Like you said, it's like the lowest on the totem of like things to care about me. This is just my body.
You see like those stories and documentaries of people where they were like, all I need in my life is a nose job or whatever. I'll be happy then. Then they get the nose job and then they're still not happy. And they're like, okay, if I just get my eyes done, then I'm going to be happy. Whatever it is, it's like you think that that's the reason why you are down on yourself or why you're depressed or why you don't like yourself or whatever. And then you get that thing and then you're like, or when I get this higher paying job or whatever it is. And then you get it and you're like, wait, that's still not the it. Like, that's not what it was. And I think that this can like correlate to that. Losing the weight may not make you any more ready to date or not. So figure out your confidence, your self-esteem, do some affirmations, do some self-work in that way, and then you'll be ready to date, regardless. I mean, because listen, the people of my 600-pound life are never single.
True. There are plenty of girls who, aren't that physical ideal, but like they get lots of dates and they like because they are confident and they are exactly who they are, and men are drawn to that. But I think maybe what this person was getting at too is I'm not getting treated the way that I want to get treated by men, and I am putting it in my own head that it's
Yes.
because of my size.
Yes.
And that is not true. They are not treating you that way because of your size. They're treating you that way because that's what you allow from them, and that's the standard that you set.
The energy you're giving out. Like,
Yeah,
you're giving
exactly.
out, you deserve to be treated well, because
Yes.
in your mind you don't deserve to be treated well because you're a little bit heavier than you'd like to be.
Yeah, I think that's a very interesting point, and it could be like applied to like different things, not just weight. It's like, well, I'm not where I'm at in my career. I'm not where I'm at here. I'm not where I'm at there. It's like, okay, well, if you really think everything is going to change and magically a switch will flip when you get that job that you want, then you're wrong. That's just not how it works.
We're killing it today. We're just like on a roll.
That was a good one.
Show, like, if just so you guys know, we have another show, the Brooke and Alexis show. We are so creative with names, as you can see. We are very creative.
Marketing.
So that one will be linked here too. But if you just can't get enough of hearing our voices, check that out. And like, let us know what you think of what we've said so far. Like, do you agree? Are you against us? Like, let us know. Like, subscribe. And start engaging now. Like, we're not to the end yet, but start engaging now. Why not? Please. Okay.
Yes.
Okay. So, for the last segment today, we, of course, are going to give advice no one asked for, because that is our favorite thing to do. And sometimes we find the scenarios, online or things like that. But today, it's a scenario that happened in the wild. And so Brooke has no idea what I'm about to share.
I know it takes place in a salon, which is where all the hot gossip goes down.
I know. And yesterday was like the hottest gossip day in the salon. Like, my stylist, and her name's Alexis too, we were like, usually we're sitting here talking about like mom stuff, and we're like, today the tea is piping. Or we're talking about like 90 Day, but like we had like real scenarios to weigh in on. Anyhow, okay, so this girl comes in and she's like, oh, so guess what? Like, I'm 5 for 5. And her text's like, 5 for 5? Like, what are you talking about? She's like, oh, 5 days, 5 guys. So the nail tech goes, what? Like, oh, you went like on 5 different dates? She's like, I mean, if you want to call it dates, I guess. And then her tech was like, wait, did you sleep with all of them? And she's like, yeah. And then she was like, she said the girl's name. And then she was like, what? And then she's like, did you use protection? And then the girl said like, oh, like with one of them or something, like with one, but it failed. The protection failed. What? And okay. So I'm sitting there, head full of foils. I'm like looking at Alexis in the mirror, and we're looking at each other. And then she's like, did you hear that? And so then literally my stylist she's hilarious. So she turns around and goes, girl, you got something. Like you got a disease. Like, she just turns around and just says that. So that, of course, enters us into the chat, right? And the was like, haha, like, no, like, whatever, like, da-da-da. So then I turn around. I was like, hey, girl, like, you don't know me, but I'm about to talk to you. So then I was like, I'm not trying to be funny at all right now. I was like, but is it your job? Like, is it your job? Because we're, fine. If it is, that's your job. She's like, no. And then I was like, okay, but did you get paid? Like, she's like, no. Did you get anything? Did you get dinner? Like, what are you getting out of this? Like, whatever. And she's like, oh, well, I mean, I got something from all of them. I was like, okay, please. So we're like absolutely horrified. Then she continues on to say that the reason that she did it was because she found out that her ex had a new girlfriend. So it was like revenge sex. So then I was like, But that's ludicrous. Like, unless you filmed it and posted it, he doesn't know that you just went on a 5 for 5. And furthermore, he probably doesn't care because they're men. He doesn't care. He has a new girlfriend now. He doesn't care. So now you just did an energy exchange, a potential disease exchange with 5 different dudes in 5 different days who don't care about you at all. And then, like, that was your ticket to revenge. I mean, it was just wild. It was such a wild story. And then like that she was kind of like proud of it was bizarre. So I mean, please give her some advice that she didn't ask for, please.
Okay, but first I have to know, like, how old is she, and just like what is how old?
21.
21. She's 21, so she's so young. Like, and she just has it in her head that like that's okay to do, that like she's getting hers. And it's hard to explain to someone who's so young like how wrong that mentality is, and that the only person who is being served in that situation is the 5 men who were served your services for free, and not have, and then that's exactly causing, a lot of the predicament that we're in with dating is like, well, if there's girls out there who are willing to do it like that so frivolously, then why would guys think they need to work hard to like get it? Because like there is always another girl who's like willing to do that. But yeah, I mean, there's not a lot of advice for her other than like, don't do that. Like, I don't know what else to say. Like,
I mean,
like stop.
I know.
Yeah, like stop, but it's like, well, you can't really explain to someone how wrong they are when they're young until they're older and like they're looking back and realizing how dumb they were too. And it's just
Right.
really, you know what I would do? I would
No,
give her my book. I would say, girl, this is
I
what these
should have.
men.
I should have. Next time I'm gonna take one with me because I feel
Right.
like let's take a look at this. So here's what we did. Okay, so the Alexises were floored. We tried to talk to her, just like, girl, okay. And then
Right.
so then we left. Well, we went to like she had to like wash my hair. And then there's a little girl that works in there who's 15. She comes over to start talking to us, as a teenager would. And so then Alexis looks at her and goes, honey, please promise me that you'll never have sleep with 5 guys in 5 days in a row or something. She said unprotected. And then the girl was like, her little face was like, wait, what? And then she's like, who would do that? And so we're like, well, this, that, and the third. So then we broke it down to her like about, I'm like, they sleep with you. It's not because they love you. They want to have sex. They want to have sex with you. Like, so don't equate the two, so we were like kind of schooling her. We're like, it's an energy exchange. Like every time you're doing that, you're giving away a little piece of you, and it will eventually catch up with you. So we like really were breaking it down all to her because she's only 15. So like we saw time for her to like
Yeah.
maybe start thinking. And of course we're all going to do what we're going to do. But of course, as women who've been through a lot of that stuff, we're like, it's not what you think it is. And then I was like, and girl, like, I'm going to tell you 9.9 times out of 10, it wouldn't have been worth it anyways. Like, you are not going to be having some mind-blowing sexual experience time after time after time after time. Like, you're not. So then when you really think about it, it's like, why did I do it? Like, give me a hug and call it a day, buddy.
That's a good point. It's like, especially if you're 21, like it's probably not very good. But also, like, I mean, I fully understand that, like, when you're feeling heartbroken over someone, it is way easier to get over that person if you quickly move on to someone else.
And there's
But,
someone else.
but one someone else, or
Yeah.
maybe two, like maybe two, that would be fine.
I mean, and
But
just
yeah,
days in a row is just wild.
but to think that, like, that will serve you a yeast infection, girl.
That's
Like,
what they're saying. Yeah.
yeah, like, you gotta be careful with that kind of stuff.
Exactly. It's your health, not only your mental health, but your true physical health. Like, is at
Yeah.
risk. And then she was like, well, don't worry, guys. Like, I'm not going to end up pregnant because, like, I'm on whatever. And I was like, the fact that you think that the worst consequence of casual, reckless sex is pregnancy really shows where we're at. Because I'm like,
Yep, exactly.
like, that's actually not the worst consequence that you can get from it. And
Exactly.
so, anyways, girl.
Well, listen, I do not want to slut shame because I have definitely been a slut before, and I will share with you this one time that I did actually have sexual relations with 3 men in 2 days. I know.
Well,
I wrote about it in the book, but I left it out. Okay. So the first one, it was New Year's Eve. And
Okay.
like I didn't have any plans, and this guy randomly invited me out. I think his original girl ditched or whatever, and I was like, okay, fine. So I stayed at his house that night, and we didn't like end up doing it, but like we just like did other stuff or whatever. I don't think we went all the way because of like technical issues or whatever. Anyway, so then and I wasn't really seeing him. I was just like whatever. And so then that night I had another Tinder match who came over, and or I think it was actually that day, like later on in the day, and then I think he left. And then the following day, so it's still 2 days technically because it was the morning, and then the next day, one of my other like flames was in town. He like lived in New York, but then he was in town, and like we had already hooked up several times. And so he's like, "Hey, like, do you want to hang out?" I was like, "Sure, come over." So he came over on the toward the end of day 2, and he saw the condom in the trash from the last guy, and he like knew it wasn't his. And so you know what I mean, because like he had, I think he put his in a different trash can or something. And so he like confronted me about it, and he was like, so like what's this? I'm just like, whoops, like, sorry. And he's like, well, I guess at least I know you're being safe. I was like,
The beautiful
yeah.
thing is condoms were involved.
Yeah. I mean, that's what got. And we ended up like still like being really close friends. I think we like still hooked up like after that and stuff. So it wasn't like he was like completely off put
Yeah.
by that. But yeah. Anyway, so listen, I'm not like saying you shouldn't do that type of thing, but I'm saying if you think that you're going to get something out of it other than like a fun hookup, if you are using protection, the protection works properly, then I mean, no shame. Like obviously, I was like 22 or 23 when that was happening, so you know, been there, done that. Unfortunately,
It's like no tea, no shade, no shame, no pink
yeah,
lemonade. Okay. Like for real. If what you're doing is what you want to do, then fine. But the reasoning behind this particular exploit, not fine. Like a revenge sex spree, because the revenge is like you think the revenge is like on your ex, that doesn't make any sense. Okay. Take time to
no,
think. And I think that honestly, you know what? I'm going to go out and say, like, I'm not slut shaming, but I'm going to go out and say we have gotten too far in society to not shame people that now people don't think anymore. Because when I was younger, there was a lot of like shame around women being sexual. So, not that I was ashamed out of wanting to do what I wanted to do, but I thought twice about what the consequence might be. So I don't think that people should be ashamed of like their sexuality, ashamed of exploration, ashamed of any of those things. But I do think that this was reckless behavior, and you should have some shame associated with being so reckless with the gift that you have, which is your body, which is your health, which is your mental health, which is your life. Because all of those encounters, and these are people, especially they're random people we don't know. Like looking back, you're not gonna, even if you did want to have a sexual escapades, a romp of them, you're not inviting random Tinder matches to your house same day. Like you're not gonna do that now because you realize that that's not safe. You know what I'm saying? But then we were like, oh, look, this is fine to do because I want to. And I don't need to think about it. Well, no, let's think about it a little bit. Let's think because I want to teach the 15-year-olds of the salon and the little girls coming up next that like all of these things will add up and matter to you at some point. So think now, learn from the mistakes of your elders, and think a little bit and just protect yourself. Be safe. If you're gonna go out and get wild, be safe about it because there's a lot of things that can happen to you that you can't undo. And then you'll be like, well, hell.
at that age, it won't probably be good anyway. So just like wrap it up, you know? And then,
Yeah.
oh, what I was going to say is that I don't think that she got revenge on anyone at all because that man that she is supposedly trying to get revenge on, he's looking at it and being like, wow, I made the right decision by leaving her because she
She
is,
does. My new
because
girlfriend
she's,
would never.
yeah, exactly, because she's like wiling out.
Yeah.
And then the
He
other
doesn't
part
even
of it,
know.
and he doesn't even care. Yeah. The other part of it is the birth control part, which I
Yeah.
talk about this in some of my other videos. The fact that
Yeah.
birth control, yeah, it puts women in this mindset where they give it up easily. And when they give it
It's
up so
so
easily,
real.
men think they can get it so easily, and they're right. And the only one that you're taking that little pill for is them. You're
Mhm.
disrupting your whole hormone balance. You're disrupting all of your life because you want some man that you don't even know to be able to. Oh, ew, no. Oh,
Yeah.
no.
Yeah. Like it's insane when you think about it that way. And I love that. I love that content that you're putting out about that topic because it's so real. Like that mentality of like, oh, I can't get pregnant, so it's all fine for him. Like that's not the worst consequence.
No. And granted, like I was on birth control at that time. I had a roster. Like I was like sleeping around back then. And like that's when I was working for the SD website that we talk about. You know, it was a different time for me.
It was
And
a
like
different time.
hindsight 2020, like I'm horrified that I did stuff like that. But
Of course,
you know,
all things
but that's a wild, wild story. And thank you. Thank you endlessly for sharing. And then people got a little bit of my lore too. And
I
actually,
know.
I wrote about that in the book. And then my editor told me to take it out because she's told me it made me look like a hoe. And I was like, well, I guess I'll save it. I guess I'll save that one.
Some like subscription content.
Yeah, I mean, logistically, it just kind of happened. It wasn't like a regular thing. It just
It
kind of was
wasn't
like,
like a
that's just,
plan. Yeah, like you
yeah,
just found yourself. It's like when you end up going out 3 nights in a row. You're like, I wasn't planning to do this, but like now I'm exhausted and hungover.
exactly.
Whatever. What
And
happens
I mean,
occasionally.
it was all guys that were already on the roster. So it wasn't like I was just like trying to call in the reinforcements or whatever. They
Yes,
just like, they happened
yes.
to all kind of line up. And I'm not neither here nor there.
That's neither here
Uh,
nor there, but it is
but
what it is.
anyway.
And we've all, done things that were questionable, sexually or otherwise. And we live and we learn. And then we listen to this podcast and learn what not to do.
Heed our warnings, young children, or above the age of 18 children
Yeah.
that are
I
still
know, right?
children, as far as I'm
You
concerned.
still, oh no, for sure. For sure. Like you got a lot of growing up to do. And if we treated them more like children, I think they would get better, like further in life, instead of just
I
trying to act like, oh, you're 18, you're an adult now, and like making them think that. And then like they're not even set up for life right. But that's another episode, okay?
We'll save that for another episode. This one's been a good one.
It has been. All right. Well, we will be back to solve your problems soon. But in the meantime, check out the description box for all the ways to connect with us. Get Brooke's book. Comment, like, subscribe, and we'll see you around the internet.
Oh, what a lovely sign off. All right, I'll see you later.
Bye. Oh,